te kauma ono o akuhata, 2008, mate mai ai tētahi o ngā kaitoe matua o Aotearoa, a Rei Hamon. Nā rei anō ia I ako, me te mea anō, I ngā tauwhitu te kau, te wā I eke a rei ki tōna tino taumata mahi toi, rua te kaumano tāra te wāriu o tētahi o āna whakāhua. Heoi, he tangata humārie a rei, he tangata mautonu ki āna akoranga I aia e tamariki ana I ngā ngahere o te tai rāwhiti. Kia mārama rawa ki tāna haerenga mai I te wā he kaimahi ngahere ia ki tua whenua, tainoa ki tāna mahi toi, me hoki atu ki te timatanga.
Aripata Taniwha was our great-grandfather, and he was a great fighting chief. He made his all of his weapons of war out of kānuka, and he would kānuka splits a lot, but he'd put them in the swamp for 2 or 3 years to let them harden up. They get as black as ebony. But when he joined the church, he buried all his greenstone, his meres, taiha in the ground out at Te Kraka. And I must say, we tried to find him, but he was a big man. And he would have buried them deep, more than we were willing to dig, no doubt. But we never did find them. And the grandmother, Huia, Tupeka, she was a pure-blooded Maori. She married 4 times. The husbands died, and then that's where the Hamon come in. It was French from the Isles of Sark, Joseph Hamon. And the long and the short of that was, and he took off and he was never heard of again. And so that's where the Hamon side of it came in. We grew up in the bush. Everything we did was related to it. The firewood, the wild honey from the beehives. It wasn't so much as what, in the holiday period especially, what you got for us for lunch, Mother. It's what are we going to go and get for lunch.
It was the tail end of the Depression, and a shilling was was a lot of money.
My father hardly went to school. He was educated to supply and keep us fed. He was one of the best hunters in my life that I've ever seen. That was life. You were educated to live. For Dad to walk 70, 80 miles into the bush and carry his axe was nothing. That's how strong he was.
Ia rei e tamariki ana, kātahi ka puta te waipuke nui rawa atu ki te tai rāwhiti. Nā reira, ka nuku tōna whānau ki tū ranganui ākiwa. Nā te taumahatanga, ka huri te whaia o rei ki te tahi mana atua o runga. He pānga ka kore e wareware ia rei.
Yes, he had great faith. One of his favourite sayings, well, he always said, that without his faith in Heavenly Father, he would never have been able to draw the way he did. And his saying was that he held the pen and God was the one that guided his hand.
Te kaumā iwa tōna pakeke I tāna tūtakitanga ki tōna wahine tuatahi a iri hāpiti kohonui takitimu a rā a besika ki ngā tāngata mōhio atu ki aia.
Mum and Dad was happy. Life was a bit hard like it is out in the Never Never, so things were self-sufficient. I said Mum was a good cook and Dad was a good cook on his own, and everything that you wanted was in the garden. In 1948, our mother caught typhoid fever and was taken to hospital in Gisborne, and she died there, my mother, Christmas in 1948. And because of that, our father decided to uplift us. He didn't want to stay there, and we left Motu. That's when our life ceased there and everything changed.
We knew Bessie. She was a lovely person.
Very fiery person.
Yeah. Well, that whole family was a family, the Takitumu. And Bessie, she was a takitumu from Tokomaru? Tolaga.
Yeah.
Well, one of those. Most of those takitumus were pretty fiery and what have you, but she was a great lady, and it was a tragedy when she died.
Well, after the typhoid, when our mother died, Bessie died, my father married another girl called Maya Pāho, or in proper terms, Maya of the Iwi o Pāho, no the Ngāti Ture, from a place called Kakarere, the te whenua between Te Araroa or Tiki Tiki.
I didn't meet him, he met me. He just came over from up the street over to where I was standing. From that time on the way back home, caught the bus home, my cousin and I, and he got in before me into the bus, and my cousin, he made a nice seat next to him. My cousin said, "Here's a seat for you." No, he's there. Now you come and sit here beside me. So I did. That's where it started. If I didn't marry him, he would have been gone. That's true.
How many kids that I know they raised more than I know. There's 9 of us, brothers and sisters, through 3 marriages. I'm the oldest in this family, but all up 9. But how many did they look after? I'd say numerous. They were great ones for helping other families or helping themselves to other kids and feeding them and looking after them. So they had many kids through their homes.
Ka noho a rei raua ko Māia ki hauraki, a mō ngā taurua te kau, I te whakawhānui haere o tō raua whānau, a rei mahi ai ki te mirakani rākau o Thames. Ko te poro I ngā kauri o ngā ngahere, tētahi o ngā mahi nui o taua wā.
We did work together as a bush gang, just about as a family, as brothers in the bush. All the work that we did up at the Tararoo when we first got onto the Kauri, that was all done by the big crosscut. And some of the scarves that they had to put in, the scarf is what they cut into the tree and also to make the tree fall in the right direction, were so big that a man could actually lay in the scarf.
Once it was just starting to crackle, you'd hear it talking.
That's the talk.
That's time to move, to get away from it, because it could easily get killed. So you moved back, and you always had a retreat way already cut, so that you could move back without tripping over vines and falling on your face and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, the bushmen back in those days, they treated their axes just like
they were
babies.
Gold. They were the most precious thing they owned.
Yeah. Vernon, the other brother, had to drive those bullies, and some of the places where he took those bulldozers and that was where other people just wouldn't do it today. Then he'd pull the logs out to the skids, and then I'd take them away from there on the truck to the mill.
Just people felled the forest, hocus pocus for farms and all of that, and there wasn't any restriction. And it wasn't until you'd actually participated in the falling and destruction of these trees and then started to realise the scarcity of it, that the conservation spirit came into it. Hey, this is not good enough.
I te ekenga a rei ki te pake ke whā te kau, he kaimahi pūkenga nui ia ki te poro rākau kauri ki hauraki. Engari, he taha anō tāna. Ara ko te nā kau nui ki te taurima I te taiao. Ko te oranga o ngā rākau te mea nui rawa ki aia. te kōrero a Rei I tana tapahitanga Kauri whakamutunga. I te wā I hinga te rākau, neke atu I te kotahi mano tau ia e tū ana, a I nā whaia ka hoki atu au, a I reira ngā manu pērā I te kākā me te kereru, ko ngā manu whai kōhanga ki taua rākau I ngā whakatupuranga maha. Ko ia te tohu whakakapinga, ka tuku atu taku pepa rihaina me taku oati, ka kore rawa au e poro rākau anō.
That big one that they floated to Auckland, that was the last of them, and was really, when he saw that one fall, he just said to himself, there's just no more.
He did talk to me about his work in the bush and how they felled a Kauri one day and he decided he didn't want to do that anymore. With the when they felled it, Rei said there were birds and everything was screaming. You know, the birds were crying and this sort of thing. But he said the pigeons were coming back to try and settle where the tree had been, the kereru. Yeah. So he decided, no way, he's not going to do that anymore. Back in the 40s and 50s, you know, like it was just destruction and burning of the forest to put in the pines and also to clear for farmland. And I'd seen it all my life here in the Coromandel. Every autumn, burning forests to clear for the forests and the farmland. And it was fairly sickening. What Rei and I were against was them felling the forest to put in the pines. That's what we were fighting against. It's all about money, it always is.
I te mutunga o te mahi poro Kauri, ka mahi a Rei mo te Ministry of Works, hei kai mahi rori. Ka hono hoki ia ki ngā kaitia ki papa atawhai, a ka whawhai tahi rātau ki te tiaki I ngā ngahere. Aha koa te tini, Kauri I whakai ki a rātau mahi.
Cutting down Kauri trees was a habit. It started off as a necessity and then an industry develops up and people have got jobs, so you need people to say, hey, we're going in the wrong direction. And Rei was one of these people who stood up against the loggers. It is absolutely essential you have people out there with the vision to lobby, but it's often a difficult track because the majority, of course, want to go and catch fish. They don't want to save them when they can have them in their frying pan. The logging rights were sold by tender and people would tender to remove bush and they took everything. Now, in the latter stages when it was sort of conservation was becoming dominant and they were closing down the forest, there was a number of people who lobbied to chop out just dead ones. A few people were given permits to do that, but then they found they were whipping out when nobody was looking a perfectly good tree too. It didn't work.
It is now the time for a bold political decision to be taken for the long-term interests of New Zealand. But is the government willing? That's what we want to find out.
Ko tētahi o ngā tino tauira, ko te puku mahi a Rei ki te tiaki I te whenua ki Māngai I te rohe o Hauraki.
It was the last big stand of Kauri left on the Coromandel, like as in a grove, and they were big mature trees. And they were all ready to be milled, but the millers were only allowed to take the dying trees. But he found that they were taking the live Kauris that were in their prime. Well, Dad and his brothers, mainly Roger, decided to try and find some of the largest Kauris left on the Coromandel.
We went in on foot on 2 or 3 occasions to try and find this big tree that was supposed to be in there. And the locals said, hey, no, there's no Kauri up in this area. It's in the next valley. They almost had us convinced. The New Zealand Forest Service did not know where all the Kauris were.
Yeah.
And they said they did. The Forest Service sent a ranger from Tapu in to try and locate this kauri tree, to get there before we did, to discredit us, because I'd already said that we'd found this big kauri in the headwaters of the Kaimurama, thinking that, you know, that's a huge area, nobody would beat us to it. I should use their very words, they're not very nice. What could you snotty-nosed Maori boys do against us? And that was their very words of the rangers, the government rangers, when we started to oppose the felling of the kauri up in the Māngai forest.
He went up there and he took a photo of these tags that were on the trees, and showing that they were prime trees. And then he took a photo of that tag showing that tree had been cut down. And then he presented a court case against the millers to the Minister of Environment, Duncan McIntyre.
Which was a very, very sore point with, with the millers.
Oh, yes.
That they had the contract.
Yes, we weren't very popular with them. So we got there, and there was this one big kauri sitting out on its own, like a rogue elephant, you know. It was just sitting out there, sticking up out of the forest. We were just marvelling at it. Next thing, hui, down in the forest. Who on earth can be down there? And it was this ranger, we'd beat him by half an hour.
Ko ngā whakaahua nei, he mea whakamahi I te rā, ka tū a rei me ngā tāngata nei, ki mua I te kauri, ka tahi anō nei ka puta. Me tētahi pakiwaitara tūkaha, I puta ki runga I ngā nūpepa o te motu. Nā tērā, ka pā te taumahatanga ki runga I te kāwana.
The publicity was immense. It took a full thing of the weekly news at that stage. Then within 3 days, Duncan McIntyre, the Minister of Forests, declared the forest a sanctuary. We was fighting for, Forest Park. We didn't ever dream that they'd make it a full sanctuary. So that's what it is now. It's a sanctuary, and it's protected for all time. Kauri, known now as the Hamon Kauri.
My eyes feast on the kauri whenever I see them. I just hold them in reverence. And this to me is where I get the deeper spiritual inspiration to compose and create my pictures.
I ngā tau ono te kau, ka pāmai tētahi aitua nui, he kaupapa I tahuri te oranga o Rei.
Well, he broke his back. His horse died on him when he was coming back from work, and it rolled down the bank. That sort of broke his back, and so, but he managed to crawl home and stuff. Luckily, it wasn't far from home. Yeah, he had went to the hospital, had screws and vertebrae fused, and that to keep him upright, I guess. Things got pretty bad. He couldn't work or anything, and my sister Tina left some pens and paper behind, and he just picked it up one day and started doodling. And the first lot of pictures he didn't like and screwed them up, but Mum got them out. And
that's when I took a couple of those you've showed to one of our photographer. And he reckoned it was beautiful. I said, well, he didn't want to show it to anybody. Because when he found out I did that, he went mad at me. I said, no, it's all right. That chap, well, he's a photographer, he took it up to Case House, lives in Auckland.
Case and his wife Tina came from a background of art in Holland. They came here after the war. They found New Zealand art was raw but exciting, and they wanted to show New Zealand craft, New Zealand art. And they did, very courageously, in their little gallery in the late lamented His Majesty's Arcade. They sincerely established a forum where living New Zealand artists, often avant-garde and cutting-edge artists, could show their work.
Well, when we came to New Zealand in the late 50s and early 60s, there was very little in terms of art galleries in Auckland. So we felt that there was a need for it, and that's why we started it. My first impression about Rei's work, I was indeed very impressed. I couldn't wait to ask him, you can show with us if you like. And we did that as soon as we could.
Lots of people in middle age have a display of art, but to be in either New Vision or Barry-Lett was a kind of accolade. And he was this guy coming out of nowhere, and Case really recognised the quality.
According to what he told us, he came straight out of the bush, but we knew he had a whole bunch of very simple, primitive drawings on him. But I saw the potential in it, and so I encouraged him to come with more. And so he brought a whole lot, and soon I felt that it was a find of the first order, and that turned out to be so. I gave him some indications about his techniques. It was a very open relationship. I usually did not interfere with the artist's own character, but I helped them with materials, with advice, because I had 30, 40 years of teaching behind me.
When he first went to see Rei, Rei was using ballpoints and things to do all his work, and Case just knew that was bad, so he helped him to get on to using Indian ink and good paper and things like and pens and things like that. He was very knowledgeable because of his background at The Hague.
Ki raro I te arahitanga o Case, ka puta te whakaaturanga tuatahi ārei ki te whare toi o New Vision ki Tāmaki Makaurau, he te tau ko tahi mano I warau ono te kaumāwhitu.
I was struck in that first show how quickly he had developed from the early pictures which were done with ballpoint, and you could have a sense of struggle, and they were a little bit crude, but within the space of 2 or 3 pictures he had developed this technique of making little dots with a pen in Indian ink, and it was remarkable, the quality of them and his own sincere passion for natural things.
Well, for a change, I find myself out on location in Auckland, and I'm at present at the New Vision Gallery.
Firstly, it's reflecting my deep spiritual reverence I hold for nature, well, life itself. Nature is part of it. Secondly, it's my own way of life. You know, I'm a tiger for detail. You know, if one's going to to draw, paint, whatever you like to call those, honestly, from deep within your soul, it's you that's been transmitted through the slim medium of the pen into the picture. Otherwise, if you don't, you're trying to be something in those pictures that you're not. I remember using for the first time, see the purity of the dot that pen made, and to me, it was just as important as Hildy getting to the top of Mount Everest. You know, I knew then that was the medium I was to use for all time.
If you went in to New Vision, you were just, you know, like they directed you to the things that they thought were important, and I really had artists that they thought were important. Tony Thomason, Merkisich, all those people, Gordon Walters, they all started a New Vision Gallery.
I had met in my career also at the School of Art in Holland, quite often students with that potential, but I haven't seen them all grow out into full bloom. And that has happened to Rei Hamon. He really developed into something quite astounding. So you see, as a lecturer in art, quite often people who have that potential, but not all of them have the character and the nature to really do that.
He trained himself. This is the impression I got in this first show, how by sheer concentration of very, very careful placing of his dots and attention to the shading and his knowledge of the bush.
I used to stand behind him and we would watch him doing all these dots. Then he'd tell us to do a wee bit of dot over here on this corner and that corner of the picture, that at least we know we had a bit of dots in there. The best time he always does his artwork is at night time, where all the kids are sleeping and there's no disturbance, and that's the best time of his life. He goes right through his artwork faster. All his pictures that he does, always he picture it in his mind, never sketches. He starts the dots each corner and he finished the whole picture in the middle. That's the fantastic part about his artwork that I found, because he never traced his work, all brain, you know, all in the mind.
The really good artist educates our eye. We look at things in a slightly different way after we've looked at their pictures. Rei Hamon did that. He really made you look harder at the bush.
Landscape has always been very common in New Zealand art. During the 60s and 70s it was particularly popular. There were a whole group of artists who really did stick to landscape-based work, and they were singled out as being what was known as typical New Zealand art. The hard-edged idea of creating the landscape at that time was seen as being quite a New Zealand art characteristic. The bush didn't feature too often in the landscape art. In general, artists, when they were working with the landscape, used kind of broader, like bare hills, rather than necessarily the very dense bush idea. As far as I know, there was no one else doing anything along the same lines as Rei, with using the pointillism technique. It was pretty amazing.
Through this injury alone, it gave me first idle moments of my life, so to speak, and of course then the art burst. I feel that the seed has lain dormant there all these years, waiting for an opportunity like this. And this is how it came. One door is slammed shut, so to speak, and another more beautiful one is opened.
wā, kua wehe atu ārei I te whare toe o New Vision, a nā te āwhina o tana whānau, ka rero māna tana mahi e whakahaere.
His brothers got involved and opened art galleries and framing shops around New Zealand. So they would exhibit his artworks and sell all the prints. They did a lot of exhibiting around the country and that, and then he got his own gallery in Thames. It was run by the family, basically, and accountants and a few lawyers and stuff.
The people that bought Rei Hamon's art were not the art connoisseurs, but people who were genuinely amazed at the work and loved the apparent realism, because his work is not exactly realistic. The details and the elements are realistic, but the whole image is a vision, and they responded to the vision.
He mea whānui te whakaetanga a te iwi nui tonu ki ngā mahi toi a Rei.
Dad drew a picture called Jewels of Webster-Iti. Prime Minister Robert Muldoon, on behalf of New Zealand, bought it off Dad and presented it to the Queen. At that time, the white herons were part of a conservation push down the South Island. And so for the Queen to come back here was a rare thing, because it never happened very often. And these white herons were also a rare thing at that time.
We decided that we should give you something that is very much a symbol of this country and its life. And we have an example, an original of a work by a very distinguished New Zealand artist, Rei Hamon, who by a rather unusual method and technique records what is not so much a pictorial as a spiritual view of the New Zealand forest, the New Zealand bush, the things we all love. The particular work is entitled by him Pearls of Okarito. It has the white heron, the bird of a single flight. We also have the first #1 volume of a new edition of the works of Rei Hamon, a limited edition. We hope you will have an opportunity to look through the text, see some of the other wonderful things that this very talented man has done, and that you'll accept this as our personal gift to you in your Jubilee year.
Rei Hamon is a self-taught artist whose painstaking and detailed work has come into prominence in the art world here in the last few years. And this, I believe, was a well-kept secret, and of course a great honour for Rei Hamon.
I personally framed the Queen's picture. And I tell you what, I had it in and out of that frame, down to Parliament, down into Sir Robert Muldoon's office up in Parliament. They knew me very well up there. This was going to the Queen's Palace. And so there's, my name is probably in the Queen's Palace because I read it on the back of the thing, but that's the closest I ever get to that.
I te taumata, ki ngā tauwhitu te kau, hokona atu ngā whakahua a Rei mō ngā mano tāra. He mea whakahirehira rawa I taua wā, ka puta ki runga I ngā nūpepa o te motu.
He never wanted to really sell it. And Mary said to him, well, if you don't want to sell it, and people are at you all the time, she said, put a big price on it. And of course he did. He put the 20,000 on it, and of course when the chappie came along, well, he couldn't change his mind on it, and so it went.
He was by no means a rich person through the art. Ones that benefited is from the ones who bought it. They are the ones now that benefited from either from the beauty of looking at it and admiring it, to the possibility of reselling it if they wanted to.
Ahakoa kaore ia I hiahia te tuku atu I ana mahi ko te whāngai whānau te mea nui mō rei.
He said to us on one occasion, he said, when I finish an artwork, it's named, it then becomes a fridge for my children or a washing machine for my children. That's how he saw it. That's pretty wonderful, really. What's an artist? They are people who can express their innermost feelings, their deepest feelings into a form that other people can therefore appreciate and understand. We should celebrate them, each and every one of them, because they are taking a little bit of their heart and putting it onto a canvas or onto a paper or onto film. That's special. I think his artwork, it was Maori in its intensity and in its understanding and in its fullness, but it didn't have the look of Maori art, so I think it was generally accepted as everyday art. But I'm sure the experts would say that within it there was an extreme and wonderful Maoriness.
Atu I ana mahi toi, ka tuhi puka rota rota a rei.
He'd write poetry to go with what he felt about the piece of art, or it could be a newspaper article that he might have seen and it actually might have sparked off something that he had inside, and he really felt like he had to put it into poetry in order to convey it to anyone who wanted to see what he's doing. He printed a book called Uku Mahara, and that is, I think, his only collection of his own poetry. I've selected 2 poems that I really love. I love the message behind them and have translated them into Te Reo Māori, because I'm trying to learn Te Reo Māori too, and putting them into songs. So putting my own voice as a singer and a melody, and just to pass that message on into the future generations of what Papa essentially believes.
Neo ka iti, ka whakatata ki tau arakau, ko awa wai paruru, ko himu himu. Me o te tikanga, me he toro tika me he rawe, mohu ki koa koa roto, wa erua. Kwariro ke mai nei, uru tapu, koro mata, here kore nei, hey.
His Māoritanga comes through in his spiritual message that he brings with all his artwork. Just the connection to the land and the forest and the whenua is something that is particularly strong in the Māori culture, and Papa always said that his inspiration for his work came from that link through Horiana. That was really important, and I think he portrayed that really well in his artwork. He always said the themes of his art are Māori. That is where he gets his inspiration from. It wasn't so much the bush and how it looks, it's actually the feeling that he got, and he just said his connection was always through his Māori side.
Mohu ki koa koa roto, wa erua, kua riro ke mai nei, uru tapu, koro mata, here kore nei, hey.
Ko taku whakamara mamona, he tangata toi, tēnei tangata. Nā tā mea e pupu mai nei roto I ai a tērā mo te ngahi, mo te ngahere. E te tiro atu ana ki a papa tūnuku, e te tiro atu ana ki a tāne mahuta, It's tōtana ki rātu o ngā atua I te rawa. He was sticking to something that he knew something about at that particular time anyway. And that's where I first met up with him. And his thought was, I'm a great lover of going into the forest and seeing those mighty trees and, you know, that type of feeling. A feeling of oneness. And it's that oneness that he was trying to bring out. And I feel that most of us were also looking for that oneness. When you're hungry, where do you go to? Mēna koe hea kai ana, ne? Ka hane koe I te rawa, ne? When you're hungry, you go to a certain place, either the kitchen or somewhere where there's good food and things like that. That's what art is like. So that's where you capture that feeling. And you like to express it in another form, or a format that says those things. If you have a look at his coloured pieces, they're the same, very much in detail and accurate. Mā kākono ngana viere e te manune, kautengia, e ki te katoa atu I rāhua ne. That's what I like about his work here. It's so detailed. You can pretty near climb up those trees. The use that he has of the leaf structure within the ferns and what have you. The way that he's captured a feeling. It's just like people. You see some people that are taller than others, that are more shapely than others. So it's the same with trees and forms that you use over there. How beautiful was Papa Tuanuku? What? How beautiful was Tāne? The world of Tāne Mahuta. Why not? This is his world.
Without our spiritual ancestors' history and feelings, that master carver would never ever be able to carve that history into that log. It becomes a written message as the chisel goes to work. He is only the medium between that ancestral history and that log. I honestly feel that my pen has exactly the same function as the master carver.
Most Kiwis, when they come in the bush, they only see the big things. They see the giant kauri and they go, wow, look at that magnificent tree, the giant remus. But what they don't see are the beautiful little things we have in our forest. And this is where Rei was so special. He saw the wow in the little things, all the little vines, special leaves that you find. For instance, the beautiful Māngai leaf. Lovely, lovely plant. The veins in it. He could capture all this. And this is one of his favourites. The rata vine. And see the way it grows down the trunk, this magnificent rata bush. Now he could capture that. He put every single leaf in his paintings. The detail was incredible. And the little spider webs. But you also have, he was very, very good at capturing the bark of the trees. His detail was incredible. And of course, you know, that's what made a lot of his paintings very, very exciting, was the fact the way he could capture every little piece, little lichens and bits and pieces that are growing on the tree. It was beautiful. But here we have a magnificent example of a mature rata. Now this fellow, he's already killed the host tree, and he is probably around 400 years old. But Rei used to love putting these vines into a lot of his shots when you see the ones he's done of these gigantic trees. But his favourite tree was still this Kauri, the magnificent Kauri. And look at this one here, about 700 years old. And he just adored these trees. He loved the patterns on the bark, and he could draw the bark fantastically in a lot of his paintings. He loved the gum. You can see the resin, the gum coming out of the tree. He polished it. He polished Kauri wood. He's got a lot of beautiful Kauri pieces that he's done over the years. But in this forest, there's life in every square centimetre of it. And if you look up here, there's the perching lilies, which Rei used to paint exceptionally well. And it's got rata vines, it's got orchids up there. He just loved all these small things in the forest. So it is a wonderful place that we live in, but we have to preserve it.
The connection between an evolution, you know, of children growing, and from that, and the patriarch goes back to the earth, and the young ones come up, and that patriarch has made a clearing for the son. He was very much relating and connecting that sort of whānau aspect with his art.
I te marama o Akuhata 2008 a Rei Hamon ma te ai, me tōna whakahihiwa I te ora o te hunga mōhio ki aia.
When I was just probably about 7 or 8, he would come in and wake us up, you know, and say, come and have a look at the storm, you know, there's this, look at this lightning and stuff like that, you know, and we'd be all, you know, us kids would sort of struggle out of bed, middle, you know, like 1 o'clock in the morning, we'd go and looking out the window at this, you know, and of course there'd be nothing, and of course until the lightning strikes, and you know, it'd look pretty impressive, but he was always getting us out to have a look at nature and being a part of it, you know, and observing it. And as a father, he was pretty awesome.
I would tell you, he was absolutely amazing. You know, we've been very, very close all the way through. I couldn't emphasise that more. You know, his passing was the passing of an era, and he was a good man too.
We all miss him very, very much because of his honesty and his humbleness with us all, and his fun to be with. Yeah, he taught us a lot of things, Rei, during his life with us, and I think he's just a Moses. He's such a fantastic guy. I look at his pictures on the wall of him, right around the room. Then I looked at him and said, gee, you cheeky, you was looking at me from there. Well, that's the only mate I can talk to.
Just get one more, yeah. That's for our wedding anniversary. Yeah, my little friend.
Now we're going on 60 years. Now he's gone. So would be this Christmas when he turned 89. So I still miss him. Now he's gone 3 months now since he's gone. Now I still miss him.
Three words would sum Ray up, and that's integrity, humility, and sincerity. He was, I got a bit emotional, but he was a very, very special person, and he was a humble man, but a hard-working man. And his main concern were the forests and the birds, and he fought very hard for them through his entire life. He was a wonderful human being, and I love Ray and Maya very, very much.
At Dad's a funeral tangi, my brother Bill got up and spoke and gave a tribute to Dad. And as I was listening to my brother, I'd never heard anyone describe Dad this way, but he said in a sentence that he was a beautiful man. And I sat there, and when I heard that, a beautiful man, they just summed up everything he was. A beautiful man. I'd never heard that spoken of my dad, and I thought that just summed him up, you know, and that's the way he was.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.